Hi folks, HR Funk here, back in front of the camera with my second generation Kel-Tec Sub2000 chambered for the 40 Smith & Wesson cartridge. Now if you've been a viewer for a while, you may recall about a year ago I made a series of videos with the Sub2000, and in those videos I mentioned that I acquired the S2K for a very specific purpose. Essential to that purpose is the ability of the Sub2000 to fold into a very compact package, making it easily portable and almost instantly deployable. Now in those videos I also mentioned that I made a few modifications to the Sub2000 as it came from the factory, and most of the parts for those modifications I acquired from the company MCarbo, which is located in Clearwater, Florida. Now one of the modifications I would like to have made back then was something I had to hold off on, and that was the installation of an optic sight on the Sub2000. And the reason that I held off was because there were a couple of sight mounts available at the time, but there were various things about them that I didn't care for, and I also knew that MCarbo was in the process of developing their own sight mount, so I held off, and about 6 weeks ago I received notification that MCarbo had completed their development of the new optic sight mount, and they had started taking orders. So about as soon as I found that out, I placed my order, and I now have MCarbo's new optic mount attached to my Sub2000, and we're going to take a close look at the MCarbo mount, and before it's all said and done, we'll head out to the range and see how the Sub2000 performs with the MCarbo mount and the optic sight installed. The MCarbo mount is manufactured from 6061 aircraft grade aluminum, and it is black hard coat anodized. I did not weigh the mount when I received it before I attached it to the Sub2000, so I cannot give you the specific weight, but I can tell you it's very light and adds very little weight to the Sub2000. When I received the sight mount, I mounted it up, and it mounts very quickly using the existing holes on the handguard of the Sub2000. You simply remove the factory screws and position the sight mount in place, and then use the MCarbo provided screws to reattach the mount, and you use the same nuts on the other side in order to cinch that down. Once in place, the mount is very stable, and again, one of the biggest advantages, if not the biggest advantage, of the MCarbo mount is it allows the Sub2000 to fold completely in half. Of the mounting options that were available previously, either they positioned the sight permanently in place and would not allow the Sub2000 to fold, or in some cases they positioned it off to the side, meaning you had to use a non-standard shooting position, or in the case of one, you had to twist the sight, fold the Sub2000, twist it back, tie back the charging handle, all of which made it a lot longer to deploy the Sub2000 and just a lot less appealing to me. Whereas, again, the MCarbo mount is very quick and very easy to stow and to deploy. Now, one thing to be aware of with the hinge style MCarbo mount is when the sight is moved to the side and the Sub2000 is folded, you can see that the sight and the mount are quite a bit farther out to the side than you would normally have with the Sub2000 itself. In fact, the top of this sight is close to 3 inches from the side of the Sub2000. I mention that because if you are stowing this or carrying it in a relatively small package, especially something that's very narrow, you need to be aware of that greater distance to the side of the Sub2000. That said, let's take a look at how well it fits in one of my carry options. And here I have the Sub2000 stowed in my trusty laptop bag. As you can see, it fits fine, and there is a lot of things in here other than the Sub2000, so even with this thing pretty well packed, I don't have any problem fitting the Sub2000 in there. To deploy, I simply unzip, remove the Sub2000, and it's ready to go just that quickly. A quick word about the sight that I installed on the Sub2000. This is Nikon's P Tactical Super Dot, and you've seen this before. This is the same sight that I installed on the CMMG Banshee pistol that I reviewed a few months ago. And the nice thing about the P Tactical Super Dot for this particular application is the fact that it has a modular base that can be configured differently and give you different elevations of the sight from the top of the receiver. So that allows you to customize the height of the sight so that it indexes perfectly with your shooting eye when you bring the firearm up to a firing position. Another thing to be aware of with the MCarbo mount is if you are using the factory rear sight on your Sub2000, or in this case, I have the MCarbo replacement rear sight, it does deploy at the same time you unfold your Sub2000. So when you rotate your red dot into place and bring it up to a firing position, the sight may be right there. Now the nice thing is the sight co-witnesses with your rear sight, so even if you under stress forget to rotate it down out of the way, which is a nice thing about the MCarbo rear sight, by the way. I can flip that down out of the way. But even if I forget to do that, because of the co-witness, the sight is up and I can still see my red dot perfectly with both eyes open. I have my binocular vision and I can still fire if need be, whether the sight is up or down. Just for my own purposes, if I have the time, I like to rotate it down out of the way and deploy just like this. And if there's a problem with the sight goes down, battery dies or whatever, I can go back to my iron sight just that quickly. So as I said, I received my MCarbo mount about 6 weeks ago, and I mounted it up to my Sub2000. Then I installed the P Tactical Super Dot on the MCarbo mount, and I headed off to the range to zero my new system. After I finished my initial zero, it got folded up and put into my carry bag. And since that time, it's been subjected to all the bumps and bruises that are typically associated with living with a police officer. Now, I don't abuse the bag that I carry the Sub2000 in. It doesn't get thrown out of an airplane or anything like that. But I also don't take the time to set it down gingerly or take special precautions with it. It basically gets carried and used just like any other piece of equipment. So with that in mind, let's head off to the range and see if after 6 weeks of that type of use, the MCarbo mount and the P Tactical Super Dot have maintained their zero. And here we go, folks. I just pulled the Sub2000 out of its bag. I'm going to open it up, rotate the optic into place, and I'm now set up at a distance of 50 yards. I originally zeroed this optic at this distance of 50 yards. I'm going to be aiming center mass at my FBIQ target. Let's see how the optic and the mount have done holding zero. Okay, thought I loaded 10, only loaded 9. I can't see the holes from here. Let's go down range and see how we did. And there we go, folks. Shots are all well on the target. They're a little low and left. Now, my shot tempo on that was intentionally a little faster. I was not trying for absolute precision. I was trying to get shots on target quickly, and I have a feeling that I actually pulled these down a little bit low and to the left, and that it's not representing a shift in zero on the part of the optic or the mount. Either way, from that distance of 50 yards, if I'm engaging a hostile bad guy, I'm not feeling too bad about any of these shots. In any regard, I'm going to move up now to a little bit closer distance. We'll do a little bit more fast and furious close range shooting, and we'll see how things go from up here. All right, folks, let's give our MCarbo mount a little bit of exercise here. Maybe we'll even fold the sub, unfold it, put it back in place. Now let's try some 7-yard failure drills and see how it does from here. Not bad at all, folks. I've got 5 out of the 6 shots that I fired at the body on the heart, and I've got 2 of those that are right on the brain stem here for the headshots. One of them that I didn't give quite enough allowance for the mechanical offset. I actually have to aim up about here because of the distance of the red dot above the bore of the Sub2000, so I have to aim high to compensate for that. On this one I didn't aim quite high enough. That's my fault, not the fault of the optics mount or the optic either. So again, everything is looking good. Let's move on and try something else. And how about a little bit more exercise for the MCarbo mount? I'm just letting it flip up, moving it back down. Let's try some headshots from 10 yards, see how it does now. And those 5 shots from 10 yards are looking very good. Everything is well within the brain, right at the brain stem there. So again, we're looking at good effective shots. No problems at accuracy, or no problems with accuracy at all, associated with moving the optic in and out of position. So there you go, folks. I'm not seeing any accuracy issues at all with just pulling the Sub2000 out of its bag and working the MCarbo optics mount back and forth and back and forth. The accuracy that I'm seeing is definitely acceptable for my purposes. So with that out of the way, let's head back to the shop and we'll wrap things up. And there you go, folks. As I said, I'm very impressed by the performance of the MCarbo mount and the P-Tactical Super Dot as well. The MCarbo mount, if you're interested in getting one for yourself, retails for $149.95. Now, MCarbo does have special discounts for military veterans or current military members, police officers, EMTs, and firefighters. So to find out about the discounts, check out their website. And also, they routinely run sales. So even if you don't fit into one of those categories, keep an eye on the website and you may be able to pick up the MCarbo Sub2000 optic mount on sale and save yourself a little bit of money that way. Speaking of saving money, don't forget, if you order anything from Optics Planet, be sure to use my discount code, which is... And if you use that discount code, it's good for 5% off anything you purchase from Optics Planet. So that's the video, folks. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions or comments, be sure to send those to me as always. And until next time, good shooting. Bye-bye.